Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive leadership in college athletics. Our guest today is Tyler Jaynes. Tyler is the CEO and founder of Influxer. Greetings, Tyler. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ty.
Yeah, no problem. So let's see. Played ball at Baylor, worked in commercial real estate when you first started off graduating. One thing I tell you about me is I was a walk-on football player at Michigan State, right? Earned a scholarship my last year in school. When I was reading your bio, I noticed you were a walk-on too, right? We're kind of a dying breed, right, with the way college athletics is going. Talk to me about that walking. Like, what type of walk-on? Did you try out, or did they invite you and say, hey, we'll have a scholarship for you? Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly how it happened. It's definitely a unique story. So I was originally recruited to Baylor for baseball out of college. So coming into Baylor, I played baseball. I had offers from other smaller schools in the state to play football. I played football in high school, but I just didn't get the type of offers or type of looks that baseball gave me. So I pursued baseball and became a lot more passionate about football. So my freshman year of college, was on the baseball team at Baylor, ended up just not loving it. Didn't enjoy it, wanted to quit, was dealing with some injuries, just not passionate about the game. And at the time, Baylor, this was 2013, so Baylor was really good at football. This was the first year that they won the Big 12. And so at the end of the season, Coach Smith from Baylor baseball, the head coach at the time, he was like, you're still one of the most athletic guys on the team. Like, what do you think about me reaching out to the football team and seeing if there'd be interest in you maybe potentially joining as a walk-on? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, are you kidding me? I love football. I'm way more passionate about football than I ever was baseball. And just felt that was the right path that I wanted to go down. So sure enough, the next day I get a call from the safeties coach, Brian Norwood. This is like May of 2013. And he gives me a call and he's like, hey, we start summer workouts in 2 weeks and we got a spot for you to join. And, you prove yourself there, then we'll invite you to 2-a-days and fall camp and the whole shebang from there. So that's what happened. And fortunately, I did work very hard. I took that summer very serious. I, competed hard in every single drill leading up to 2-a-days. And sure enough, I was invited to 2-a-days. And then really going into the season, I actually ended up making the travel squad. So wow, in the span of 4 months, I didn't even know I was going to be on the football team, to now I'm the only walk-on the travel squad for the first game of 2014, where they're opening up new McLean Stadium, and I'm running out of the tunnel, pads on, not a red shirt, like actually going into play on special teams mainly. But yeah, my walk-on experience was different. I wasn't invited by the school initially for this football program, but worked my way in through the baseball program, got on the football team, made the travel squad my first year, and then I traveled every game after that. The first game was against SMU. Got in the game on kickoff, made a tackle, and the rest was history. And so I ended up earning my scholarship after my second year.
So what's crazy is, so Steve Smith, who's at Baylor, a long time legendary coach there. Yep. So he says, what do you think about football? And in my mind, I'm like, well, 2013, they won the Big 10 championship. Big 12 championship. They asked me to be on a team that's coming into a new stadium with a coach that's hot. That probably had to be exciting for you. Then you get on the team and you make the squad, open in the stadium. It's like, and the season was historic then. Both of those back-to-backs, you know what I mean? So tell me a little bit about just internally excited. You hadn't played since high school football, so you were about a year out from playing, 2 years out from playing?
Correct. And I went to a small high school, so I played all the positions in football. So I played football, was all-state player in high school. So yes, took about a year off from football during that time period.
Yeah, no, that had to be exciting. So
no, it was incredible. Like, I was bummed that baseball wasn't working out the way I planned and envisioned my whole life. And yeah, like a week leading up to summer workouts, I remember freaking out because I didn't think any of the compliance paperwork was going to be done. I was like, oh man, I have this opportunity, but the legal side and the paperwork side is just not going to be able to get done in time. I found out 3 days before summer camp started, like everything was cleared. I was passed, like, okay, you're good to go. And I want to say I probably had a lot of tears coming down my face because it just felt like a dream come true. Yeah, Baylor just won the Big 12. Are you kidding? I get to now go be on the top 10 team. in a sport that I care about a lot, while Baylor was absolutely hot at the time. And then that 2014 season, like we hosted college game day twice that year.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, I was working there part-time at Baylor and just as excited, right? In terms of being around all
Right.
that.
Yeah.
One thing I like to talk about
Yeah.
when we talk about 3 segments of this podcast: creation, cultivation, and affirmation. So when you talk about creation, especially when I'm talking to a former athlete, one thing I do like to talk about is the transition from playing. I talk about something called the athlete identity syndrome, right? It's the term I made up. It's not a real medical term, but a term I made up that we all go through when we separate from playing. Some of us have an identity crisis and trying to figure out who exactly we are. Now, some people, if they had a major injury while they were playing, when they finally finished playing there, it's a little easier for them because they had been through that process of figuring out who they are when they were injured. But I wonder if you had any of that athlete identity syndrome when you finished playing football and moved into the business world there as an athlete.
Absolutely. I didn't know what I was going to do. Originally, I wanted to be a doctor for the longest time. So I actually graduated with a biology degree from Baylor and minor in psychology. And I wanted to be a doctor. So I thought leading up until my senior year, took the MCAT, decided that it just wasn't for me. I got a good score, but just ultimately when I got the results back, I was like, I am just not passionate about this anymore. Like, I don't want to do another 4 or 5, 6 years of school when all my friends are having jobs and moving to big cities and, starting to make money now. So I realized, like, yeah, I'm graduating. I don't really have anything lined up. The major that I pursued and got a degree in isn't anything I want to do anymore. But I just had a friend reach out to me that was just like, hey, you ever thought about commercial real estate? Like, here's kind of what I do. Let me know what you think. You can kind of shadow me for a couple of weeks. And I just knew immediately. I was like, yeah, I want to be in sales. I feel like I'm super personable. I don't need a background, especially getting into commercial real estate of, like you do being an attorney or a doctor, where you got to have a certain degree, and they care a lot about that. Nobody really cared about, when I was interviewing for commercial real estate firms, like nobody really cared about what my degree was. And that was awesome because I was like, great, I can just have a clean slate. I can just, use connections or use my hard work from being an athlete to make a name for myself in that industry. So yes, absolutely went through that identity crisis, understanding what I was going to be, landed into commercial real estate, and I'm very glad that I did.
Was there a moment of not just necessarily what you were going to do, but who am I? What's my value very briefly to the world since I'm not playing anymore? Tell me about, did you have any of that, or was it just purely what's next? What's next? What am I going to do next? Tell me about how your mentality was then.
I felt that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like, I always wanted to be in control of, my growth. And so commercial real estate was nice because you're an independent contractor. You eat what you kill. Like, you were in charge of how much money you want to make in that industry. You're not capped on anything. So I knew at least I had the entrepreneurial spirit, and just wanted to start making money and getting real world experience. That was the most important thing to me at the time. Commercial real estate ended up being that perfect vehicle for that because I got a lot of real world experience. Plus, it ended up having a pretty successful career, fortunately, and made a lot of good money through that.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. That's an excellent thing. Tell me about your approach to business, right? When you talk about coming from being an athlete and you already have these high standards for yourself, now you come into business. Tell me about your approach to that. What translated from your athletic efforts, right, into doing business? And this is more like cultivation, right? Create, understand who I am, what I'm going to do, and then let's cultivate. Now I'm executing, right, the things that I'm doing. Tell me about that part.
I am so thankful and blessed that I grew up being an athlete and got the experience
Yeah.
that I did at Baylor, of being a student athlete and waking up at 5 a.m. and doing everything hard. I mean, being a science major plus being an athlete, you were constantly studying, working, just busting your butt to make everything work, and translating that right into a young professional career coming right after college, I felt like was very advantageous compared to other athletes. And that's just how I view it. I'm like, I know I'm going to work harder than everybody else. I know I don't know everything, but I know that I'm going to control what I can control. I'm not going to have any excuses. I'm responsible for my outcome. And just carrying that same mindset into the professional world was how I approached it and what led to success. I knew that, like, when I started in commercial real estate, I was making no money. I was Uber driving. I was actually in Vegas because I grew up around Waco my entire life and just wanted to see a different part of the world. But it was an all commission job. So for the first 6 months, I Uber drove after work every day
Wow.
for 4 or 5 hours to make ends meet until I finally closed my first deal. And that took about 6 months to do. And so that process, when I first came into the commercial real estate firm, it was just like, they pounded in me of like, if you make 1,000 calls per week, you will make this amount of money on average. And I'm like, okay, well, what if I make 2,000 calls? Does that double? And they're like, yes, that's how the math works. I'm like, okay, all right. So I just need to stick to the process of, hey, I make these calls, I refine, which if you relate that to sports, that's me catching 200 balls off the jugs machine after practice every day. That's me as a golfer taking 100 swings every single day. And that's just how I viewed it and approached it. And then fortunately, 6 months later of grinding, treating that like an off season of like, I got to make a name for myself. I'm a rookie in this career and I need to stand out. What would a freshman do? Right. They're going to be staying late. They're going to be, picking the brains of other mentors, people that have done before, watching films, studying the market. And so I just carried all of that into the professional world because that's all I knew. I didn't know any better. But fortunately, that applied very well to the professional world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I played for Nick Saban. He was at Michigan State before he went to LSU, right? Before the Dolphins and then before Alabama. And he was working on the process at the time. and his thought process was, the process is, like, I'm going to teach you what you need to do to be successful in your position. Don't even worry about the other guy. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Just do what you need to do to be successful in that position, right? If that includes beating the guy in front of you, then beat the guy in front of you. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Don't worry about the outcome if you're not the one catching the ball. Just do what you need to do to be successful, right? And process. And so you take that and you go into commercial real estate. They say, well, if you make 1,000 calls, you make a lot of money, right? So you think about, okay, well, if that's the process, let me see if I can make 2,000 calls. And if I do that, I'll be successful. Like Kobe Bryant, right? If I go practice and make 5,000 shots before each game, then when the game comes, I'm going to know how to make shots and I'm going to be successful at it. So I love that when you talk about the translation of football or even just any sport to business, right? It's something that, I hate to say it, but people who didn't play sports, they don't really understand that aspect of that mentality, right?
Exactly right. You mentioned Coach Cause. I think of him, and I can't, to this day, I still talk with my team and bring up things that Coach Cause said of like, expect things to go wrong, expect the lights to go out in the stadium, like be mentally prepared for situations, because at work and life, like that's just going to happen. And so crazy. I think back of Coach Cause and the amazing messages that he provided to us as athletes and how well that translated to the business world before I even knew it. So it's a blessing to receive that type of education experience and guidance. But then using this platform and using, media and the way it is in 2026 of like, these athletes need to know that so much of what they're absorbing as an athlete is going to translate to the business world. It's just not talked about enough. So kudos to you for shining the light on that.
Yeah, 100%. It's important. So talk about being an entrepreneur. So Influxer, right? Let me tell you what I have here, what I've written down, the mission. I like to start everything with some type of purpose, right? Why do we exist? To help all student athletes navigate NIL by presenting income opportunities, providing professional education, and supporting a future beyond college athletics. Now, that's what's on the website. Sometimes those things evolve. Tell me if that's still where we're going, the purpose of Influxer in the world.
Yes, that mission statement still holds true today. I think a more condensed statement that we are working on publishing out is just NIL for all. Everything just comes down to our mission and core at Influxer is providing NIL opportunities for all athletes. And that's across all levels. That's across all sports. There's no conditions with that, right? College, we just launched high school, taking it beyond those aspects, but also not just providing one opportunity, but being a full NIL ecosystem is what that accomplishes. So that main mission statement and the shortened NIL for all is certainly how we started as a company and still holds true today, which is awesome.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Influxer. Now, if I'm an athlete, say at BYU, does BYU have to have a relationship with Influxer, or me as the athlete, I have my own relationship with Influxer? Tell me about how it's set up.
every athlete can have their own individual relationship with Influxer, regardless of the school involvement. However, we do have over 630 schools that have get approved our license and have more of a formal partnership with that we work in tandem. But we have thousands of athletes on our platform that at schools that we aren't licensed with. I mean, Ohio State, Texas, Miami, just a few schools to name that we still have athletes from. But we also still have, you know, LSU, Oklahoma, Florida, USC, and it's great because all the athletes are traveling or transferring around. So a lot of the athletes that aren't at a licensed school end up being at the school that Influxer has. So yes, this platform is available for all athletes, regardless if we are working with their school on a more formal level or not.
Yeah. So interesting. So give me an overview of Influxer in terms of if I'm an athlete and what I might be interested in or what might be presented to me. There are a bunch of options out there. I hear about Influxer. Tell me what I would hear if I was an athlete on campus.
This is a free opportunity. This is a platform that can make you money through merchandise sales. And we're a full service platform. Like, we offer licensed merchandise, custom merchandise, a design studio that we just launched. So now any athlete can come on and upload their own design and get it published on their Influxer storefront. So creating merchandise as an easy monetization opportunity that's free. The athletes receive royalties on sales. But then on top of that, we're offering additional resources. We just launched a agency marketplace where athletes can go and discover agents, and agents can be discovered by athletes that need representation. We're working on finding some financial partners at the moment. We've done several brand deals, brand endorsements, campaigns where select brands want to work with hundreds of our athletes or a few of our athletes for endorsement opportunities. So anything that you can think of with NIL, such as merchandise, brand deals, connections to resources, financial education, literacy, on-campus visits that we do this all for free.
Yeah.
To the athletes and schools. And then way we make money is through, merchandise sales and, of course, the brand sponsors as those come up.
Right. Okay. So the athlete, the setup for them to be to work on selling their brand and decide what they want, design, how I want to do it, t-shirts, I want hats, I want button, lapel pins, I want whatever, right? I want my own cufflinks. For them to do that is free. And the way you make money is like a percentage of the sales of the merchandise that the athlete, that everybody's selling, I guess. Did I reiterate that right?
Correct. We don't make any money until the athlete actually has merchandise sales. So we create the store, The athlete signs up, gets in our system. They'll immediately get a storefront live within 24 hours with, licensed merchandise, or if they've gone through our design studio and they've given us the design, we'll upload that for them. But all of that is free and the setup is done. And then it's on the athletes to, of course, promote it, send it to friends and family, drive purchasers. And at that point, once sales happen, that's when we make money, the player makes money. And then if it's a licensed product, which most of them are, we got to pay a royalty to the school. So it's a win-win-win. So it's additional revenue for the athlete, additional revenue for the schools, which a lot of schools want and need right now. And then we don't make anything until those sales actually happen. So we're all aligned of like, hey, your success is our success. We make just as much, we're incentivized here of you make more, we make. You don't make more, we want you to make more. So
yeah, super interesting. The new athlete, I guess, interchange, or I can't remember what you called it, but tell me how you're not athlete, agent. Tell me how you're vetting agents, right? This is something that all people who care about student athletes have always worried about is agents. How are you looking out for the best interest of student athletes? Tell me about how you're vetting agents to be a part of your exchange.
Well, how we're vetting agents. Agents can come on and create an account. Ideally, they are licensed, and we are asking for that information if they are licensed. However, there's a lot of NIL agents that just operate as marketing agents that are great assets for a lot of athletes that aren't technically licensed. So it's still open to both of those. However, the goal of what we've built is, hey, all of our athletes are here and can be reached out to by agents. Athletes can, of course, decline to be contacted. All of those privacy and rights issues, nothing gets transferred or nothing gets exchanged information-wise until the athlete approves. So the power is still in control of the athletes, but for agents, how we're going to vet that is honestly, letting the athletes be able to rate all of these agents. So creating one marketplace, which doesn't exist out there, where every agent can be on for NIL specifically, and then allow our ecosystem of 70,000 athletes to share their experiences, kind of like an Uber driver, right? Rate your agent. This was my experience with them, 4-star, 5-star. We have to start getting that data and have to start allowing the market speak for itself to understand who's going to be the best agents. Because like for us, like that's a hard question, Ty. Like, how do we vet who's the best agents? Best way to do that is to get feedback from the athletes. Well, how about one platform where athletes can connect with the agents and the agents they currently have, give them a review that is anonymous or can be shared, and allow agents to be discovered based on their success with the athletes. 5 stars obviously is a better vetted agent, but the best way to that is by the athletes giving their feedback. So that's our intent here, and we're excited that that's rolling out.
Tell me about relationships with third-party companies, right? If I found an agent on your exchange and now this agent wants me to work with Purple mattresses or something, right? Is there a creative setup to where my merchandise, Purple mattresses, somehow Influxer we can figure out some type of tripartite, right? Or something like that to where it makes sense for everybody through Influxer?
We are working on something like that right now. The agent portal is just, hey, we connect the athlete and the agent, or vice versa, and then they keep dialogue offline. They can have whatever private conversations they need to outside of our system, which is how they prefer it anyways. It's just like, we're making the connection. Hey, this athlete wants to contact you. Do you confirm that you're willing to be contacted by this agent? They say yes, and then they get connected via email and SMS of okay, and then they're having a conversation offline. As far as intertwining brands, there's a lot of plans for that through the agency portal, but we're building something separate that is brands and athletes, very simple marketplace in that regard. But that's
I just thinking as an athlete, if I'm successful at selling through Influxer, the athletes, well, when you play way back when I played, there was a loyalty factor. I don't know if it's still, now that people play all over the place throughout their career, but if I'm selling through Influxer and I am successfully selling, and I get in a relationship with a third party brand, and I'm like, hey, I want to put, I like my t-shirts. People are buying these all over the country. I want to put your brand on my t-shirt and sell it through Influxer. Seems like there could be some benefit there. It does seem like there would possibly be a lot of different pieces moving, but I mean, if Influxer is the way and people know to come here to get my stuff type situation. So I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, there's definitely a route to that. And I'm going to write that down. The only issue there is just we couldn't combine it with school IP, but we can do it with the custom merchandise.
With the customer, right, exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely an avenue there for sure.
Well, and even because you think about school IP, and I didn't mean for this to be a brainstorming session, but even school IP is changing because I might not be there next year. So I don't want to really... I'll tie it to my brand for the moment, but really I'm the brand, right? And so where I am next year may not involve University of Nebraska or whatever school. So, I don't know if that's the affiliation I want, because I'm not known, but by junior year I'm known, and I'm at a different school by my junior year. Like, I'm the brand now. So I don't know. It's a lot. NIL is something like, you being a CEO and founder, it's very intriguing, especially for athletes in this transfer type environment we're in. Like, it's very intriguing when you start talking about name, image, and likeness. Now, I know this is stuff that you probably dream about at night in terms of the company, right?
Yeah, and I can tell you just real quick, like, how the past 4 years went. We're in our 4th year of merchandise, and yeah, like, everything at the beginning with Influxer and what really caught traction, the demand was all the licensed gear, right? When you buy jerseys, when you buy t-shirts, you want the school mark and the player NIL on it, right? If you're going to go to Cowboys game and buy a Dak Prescott jersey, you want the Cowboy star and Prescott on the back. I'm a Cowboys fan, but that was immediately what was hot. But yes, you're right. Like, the transfer portal has changed everything. There's such a higher demand by the athletes to have more of a TB12, right? Like Tom Brady's brand or Russell Wilson. Like, having your own personal brand that isn't tied to a specific team has become so popular, especially in the past 12 months. And so that's where we've adapted as a company of like, hey, we're not just doing licensed gear anymore. We have custom gear for athletes at schools that we're not licensed with, so they can still do that. High school players that transfer, there's so many advantages to that, and that's why we came out with that and came out with a design studio where any athlete, if you have a personal brand, you have a design, and you want to throw it up on your existing Influxer store, sign up for Influxer and get it added to your store, it's there. It's a simple, everything is on our website, custom design studio on our website, sign up link on our website. It's all there for the athletes to take advantage of. So yeah, the personal brand side has become more and more popular, which is great.
100%. Right.
The athletes should be doing that more.
I mean, that's what it's based on, right? With their brand is basically their name, image, and likeness, right? One part of the mission says professional education. Tell me a little bit about how you are. Well, let me say one more thing. One thing that has bothered me about the recent few years, I mentioned that athlete identity syndrome, right? You finish playing, and if you haven't done the work to know who you are, what your core values are, when you get out in the world, you're going to feel lost until you figure out your identity. Well, I think that is exponentially worse when you're making a lot of money while you're playing in college, and then you get out and you have to get a job that's paying you $50,000 or $60,000 compared to what you were making when you were a star athlete in college. Now the athlete identity syndrome is probably worse because now what really is my value? Like, this job. I don't even, you see what I mean? So I wonder about the education aspect and telling people, hey, you may not make as much as you were making, but you still have these tools, like you mentioned, what you did as an athlete that can help you to be successful in life. Tell me about that part of Influxer, if there's a part of that.
Yes, and I think it just ties back to really our core mission being an NIL for all, right? We pride ourselves on the 99% and the athletes that aren't making the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that you see in the headlines, because 99% of them aren't. And so our education to them since the beginning has always been like, look, merchandise is not going to be life-changing money. We're not going to sit here and tell you that it is, but it is the first building block of your personal brand. And that's the starting piece that so many of these athletes need and need to understand is like, hey, like, because of our 70,000 athletes, close to 50,000 of them, we were their first NIL deal. And then so many of them have reached back out and been like, hey, I'm so glad y'all built this platform, like promoting the merchandise and getting me a start of a personal brand helped lead me to the next brand deal. It gave me something to my portfolio that I can showcase to other brands of like, hey, here's how I promote my merchandise and Influxer. Boom, I'm using that to land more brand deals. And the athletes just got to understand that it just takes a lot of education, a lot of different modules, a lot of different messaging to reach the college athletes, reach the high school athletes, make sure that the schools are reinforcing the same message of, hey, you got to start somewhere, because a lot of these athletes haven't started, and it is so important, not just for their time in college, but their entire life. I mean, our personal brands are so important. And Ty, we work with 70,000 athletes that in 600 schools. It's just, we want to get this messaging out to the masses, and obviously the industry is so new. But another thing that we do on on education and resources, we try to visit anywhere between 30 and 50 campuses every single year. Our VP of compliance, Keith Miller, who was my compliance officer at Baylor, does a roadshow every single spring and fall, going to several different schools, talking with admin, talking with leadership and the athletes on all of these topics. I mean, NIL growth, reinforcing the school's messaging around NIL education, how to source brand deals. And we're constantly looking to expand that. And we're in talks right now with some pretty big banks at the moment in regards to partnering with a financial services provider, one big financial services provider that can provide all sorts of tax resources, investing resources, wealth management. So hopefully that'll be announced here in the next few months.
I love that. Yeah. Continuous growth, right? Continuous growth. I'll ask a couple questions and then we can wrap. The first question is about staff. This is the affirmation phase of the conversation, right? Keith Miller, Levi Norwood. I'll tell you this, I went to Baylor for grad school and I worked down there part-time for almost 20 years when I was at the Football Coaches Association. I had 3 favorite players at Baylor. Right. The first favorite player was Walter Abercrombie. Right. He was my mentor. And then Sean Roshan, one of my best friends. and then Levi Norwood, right? I just liked the way he played, right? And I'm a big fan of his father. So to hire Keith, who I got to know while I was at Baylor, and to hire Levi, former teammates, whether it be compliance or on the team, tell me about hiring staff and evaluating staff. You guys also have this internship program where student athletes, I guess, are interns. So tell me about just people, the people part of the business, and evaluating, affirming, just making sure people are successful, which helps the business to be successful.
Yeah, Keith and Levi. So going back to what we talked about of, hey, how did I walk onto the football team? Remember who called me? Brian Norwood called me. So that was Levi's dad is the reason why I was even on the football team, because he listened to Coach Smith, called me the next day. I still have even the text transcript that screenshotted of that. Like, oh, so amazing. Yeah. Crazy full circle to, play with Levi as a teammate. Levi actually shot my my senior photos when he was in grad school with you at the time. And like he shot my senior photos when I was graduating from Baylor, and just always stayed in touch. I mean, that's the beautiful part about sports. But getting into Influxer, when I first started Influxer, the first person I called was Keith Miller, somebody who would understand compliance, somebody who's obviously been in the industry long and is on the front lines of it, because I was still in commercial real estate at the time. And so, and as far as evaluating talent goes, and to answer your question, it's no different in the sports industry for what we're doing. Of relationships matter. I mean, I am constantly looking at, most people that I've hired have been from previous relationships. I know them from Baylor, or some are family, of course, and then some have been people that I met 10 years ago, in college. I went to a different college. We stayed in touch over time, seen their professional careers play out, and then ultimately conversation. So, it's been about relationships, which is exactly how it works at the collegiate level and the sports industry just in general. Your network is going to be your net worth, and it's important that you make connections, leave good impressions. I mean, think about just my former time at Baylor. I got two different eras, of Bryles to Matt Rule. My former coaches from my time at Baylor are Matt Rule, Joey McGuire, head coach at Texas Tech, Fran Brown, head coach at Syracuse, Jeff Levy, who's the head coach at Mississippi State. I know there's several that I'm missing out, but it's being able to utilize that network tied into who we're going to hire as a company, who's going to have the good relationships. Naturally, Keith and Levi, when I'm looking at people, are like, okay, how is Influxer going to best grow? Who's going to have some of the best relationships? Levi Norwood, Keith Miller. Yeah, they've been pivotal to Influxer's success from the beginning.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Levi, when he was in grad school, I recruited him to play on the flag football team I had at Baylor intramurals for like 8 years. We were called the geriatrics. It was fun.
They didn't have any rules around athletes being
well, you couldn't be a current athlete. He was done playing. So I mean, what you want me to do? You know what I mean?
He was done playing, so the flag football team.
Hey, for me, I was recruiting undergrads, grads, and staff. Right, I wanted the whole age range playing on the football team. Tell me about evaluating yourself as a CEO and founder. About specifically, are you just looking at the bottom line of the company? Are you looking at is the staff happy? Are the student athletes happy with the product and the business that they're doing? Are the people who are graduating and are former student athletes, are you happy? Because you probably have graduates now since you've been around for 4 years. Tell me a little bit how you're evaluating yourself in terms of leading the organization as we wrap.
Yeah, this is where being a former athlete is so advantageous, I think, to being a good business leader and running a company. Is so I always look at it as like, there's always areas to improve, right? Like Nick Saban, he'll go out and beat a team 56-7 and be chewing everybody out in the locker room.
Yeah, well, I've seen it and experienced.
I am hard on myself in the same way. I'm not as external as Nick Saban is known to be, but I'm a critic on everything. And I think Jeff Bezos says it the best too. They obsess over the customer. They obsess over that experience. We obsess over the athletes. We obsess over our customers. We obsess over our schools and the experience. And being a former athlete, like, you receive so much feedback. Obviously not all of it is good, but you don't take it personally. You're like, yeah, you're right. We do need to improve that. And not taking things as like, oh, which is often what people do sometimes, unfortunately, is just like, they think that criticism is an attack on them personally, as opposed to being, oh yeah, this will make everything better. And just being open-minded to things. I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. I tell my team all the time, I'm not perfect. I have flaws. Please call them out and hold me accountable as well. And so creating a culture where people can call you out, and I be sure to tell everybody, thank you. If there's something like, hey, you said you were gonna do this and didn't, I'm like, yes, you're right. Thank you. Like, you got to establish a culture to where I'm able to be held accountable. Everybody else is be able to be held accountable, and nobody's taking it personal. We're all on the same team, just like you are in a locker room. I mean, your starters should be getting onto your backups, and your backups should be getting onto their starters when they're locking. And that is what creates successful teams, successful culture, successful companies.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Tyler, this has been an excellent conversation. I appreciate what you have done, what you're doing, and what you want to do in the future, specifically as a former athlete, as a person, and with the business Influxer and where you're going. Really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yes, sir. That was Tyler Jaynes. Tyler is the CEO and founder of Influxer. And of course, I am Ty Brown with one question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.